Well, hello again, my friends, and wow, I was answering the Q&A and I thought it would just take maybe 20 minutes, but I spent a half an hour and I'm only like halfway through it. So I decided to make kind of a two-parter here, and I'm answering the questions in order of the Q&A I made 8 days ago. And I'm right now going down the list, and I'm at Blessed OU812. Uh, there was a first part, obviously, and it has all the questions up to this point. Questions by several different people. He says, have you seen the new YouTube artificial intelligence? I ran it on this video and here it is. Oh, I can't read that. Can I read this? Oh, hold. That's just wild. I don't know. It's a breakdown of the video from AI. I don't know if I mentioned this just now or in the last video because I just finished it, but that's, yeah, it's a breakdown. Now that shit does blow my mind where we're at right now, with these kinds of things and technology and the way that it's taking away from us actually doing the work. Like you can have, I was thinking when I was a kid, I remember the yellow books. My wife, I was like, what are those called again? And she reminded me, but I forgot again. But it's little yellow and black stripes. And they're basically cheat books for books. So for school kids who have to read certain books like, Mockingbird, the caged birds, why the caged bird sings, Maya Angelou, or Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls, and it's just like a summary of the book, right? And then they can write a book report on it without actually doing any work. That seemed pretty cool when you were a kid. Like, wow, I don't have to actually do the work. I could just, you know, go out and party and then just read the summary and write the book report. And that works. It does. If you don't want to learn a goddamn thing. But we were forced to learn certain things. And a lot of the time we liked reading the book. But now we're in a situation where we don't want to read anything. We don't want to do anything. We're being fed by an algorithm. Everything that we consume. Somebody pointing out the other day that how many people actually search Google or search YouTube anymore? Like, people just go on there and say, what's in my homepage, or what can I find on the news? Like, you're not seeking out information like the old days where you're actually going out and doing something and partaking, But anyway, that's maybe off the topic, but there was a point there. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to make it clear I missed one. Before blessed was another question, but I'm going to finish this one first. Wait, or was that the next one? Oh, no. Okay, I'm in order still. Blessed commented, but then somebody else left a comment, then he left a... Okay. The next question was by Gamigan. This question is by Gamigan. That's for AI, so it can put it out there. He said, what do you think about the Libertarian Party and some of their ideas like legalizing all drugs, getting rid of federal income tax, no minimum wage? I mostly listen to libertarian policies, but I'm not all sure I agree with legalizing all drugs. Fentanyl, crack, and meth should be illegal for sure. Okay, where do I start on this one? Okay, I like the idea of libertarians. But I don't like libertarians. Most of them are just douchebags. I mean, I don't mean that. I think the ideas are bad. It's just that most of the people who are involved are just douchebags, and they just seem to all have these wildly different ideas of how to do this. I like the idea of minimal government, but I also understand of the corruption that can take place if you have minimal government controlling everything. And if you let the private sector run it without any oversight from the government, you end up with a totally fucked up world. We are stuck in a very precarious situation where we need a lot of bureaucracy to deal with the corruption. And it's not working as well as it should, or it could, but it doesn't mean that we're not, there's not some benefit. Even I hate the FDA. They tried to fuck us over, and the DEA with Kratom when I was a vendor. They confiscated, okay, here's the thing. DEA confiscated 30 kilos of kratom I was importing from Indonesia and said it was just because it was mislabeled. They were doing that to kratom vendors, and I never got it back. Lost all that money. Okay, now, fuck those guys. But I'm still glad that they exist. Okay, look, FDA, they try to screw over raw milk vendors and all kinds of people who are trying to sell their own foods. But they've also stopped a lot of poisonings and recalled a lot of products and but now they're all in the pocket, DEA in the pocket of fucking the same companies that, just like the FDA, and they get paid half their money by the fucking pharmaceutical industry that they're approving. Okay, so we're in a totally weird time where we need government, but government's completely bought off by the same companies. The libertarians claim to want to eliminate all of these things, but I wonder who's going to be in charge. I don't know if we can allow these monopolized businesses these days to actually run things. Um, when you said no minimum wage, completely disagree with that one. I think to have a functioning country, you need a minimum wage. And in fact, I'm of one of the people who believes minimum wage should be, look, for any I know there should be limits and different stipulations. I believe any company that has over 100 employees, let's say, there should be definitely a minimum wage. And it should be $25 at least. I don't care where you're at. When people say, oh, well, that'll just fuck the economy up. No, it won't. It has not been shown that raising wages for employees fucks up the business. People say that because they want to make more. We've seen this as money gets consolidated. You know, Amazon workers could get paid twice as much and Bezos would still be a multi-billionaire. Okay? That's just a fact, you know. And strange time to be alive, I guess, you know, where we just don't do the math ourselves and just kind of buy into the bullshit. But the libertarians seem to have a good answer at first. But yeah, some of those things, legalizing all drugs, that one I actually agree with. And I should answer that one. Legalizing all drugs to me means making them all available legally. It doesn't mean you should just let people run rampant and sell the shit on the streets. For example, tobacco is legal, okay? There is a counterfeit tobacco market, but it's very small. But cigarettes are expensive. They're taxed way too much, even for what they are, right? But they're legal, just like alcohol. There's not a lot of bootleg alcohol. But if you make something illegal, then it's going to go under the radar and the profits are all going to go to like cartels. And cartels right now are just monstrous in Mexico and South America. So get rid of their income by legalizing it, allowing it to be available to adults. Fentanyl is just, I've tried it. It's another drug. I mean, the patches back in the day for pain, my back pain. And yeah, it's amazing stuff. It has beneficial uses too. So we'll never be able to get rid of it. But getting rid of the importing of it and the blues and the way that it comes in disguised as pills and everything else, if you want to get rid of fentanyl, you have to let heroin come back in. And you have to punish OxyContin makers, Purdue, and we could get into a whole thing. And I'm writing a book about this, which I'm like 100 pages in, and I still haven't finished it. It's about the pharmaceutical industry, and I really want to go there, but not right now. I'm going to continue the rest of the questions. So I agree with you that I don't agree with all their policies. I would say that. Crack and meth, you know, I would say I agree with making meth illegal if it weren't for the fact that so many people are cheering giving it to our kids. And yes, I'm talking about, you know, stimulants like Adderall, which are basically forms of amphetamine. And we stigmatize meth because it's abused so much and it's not actually sold on the market legally. But at the times when it was actually used as Pervitin was the name of it when it was used in World War II by the soldiers. The German soldiers used it during their Blitzkrieg, and that's how they could stay up for days and go to battle. Not a good thing to stay up for days. But let's just say it does have its benefits as a stimulant when people need it. Amphetamine, caffeine, there's a lot of enes out there. They're all different, but, you know, cocaine. Let's just say that all drugs have their uses, and they should be legalized, but being done properly. So the next question was once again by Blessed OUA12. Blessed, good to see you, my friend. Longtime subscriber. He says, question, do you believe in the separation of church and state, or do you feel that there are some inherent advantages to having a country built on Christian values? That leads me to a secondary question about the use of God in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Well, okay, first of all, I want to answer the question about Christian values. Do you believe in the separation of church and state? I think that, yes, I 100% believe in the separation of church and state. Like, 100%. Because when you say church, that can be interpreted anyway. In other words, Protestant, Catholic, Mormon, who gets to choose, right? So I don't want anybody who has any particular religion making public policy based on that religion, because I know that many of these religions are persecutory. They persecute and make humans out to be these sinners that just need to be redeemed, and only through believing one thing can you be redeemed. I don't buy into that at all. So I think they need to keep the values out of the basics of freedom of religion. It's all in the Constitution. Like, when people say, if you're not a Christian, you can move out, I just say, no, if you are a Christian and you act that way, you should move out, because this country is founded on freedom of religion and from religion. I myself believe in God, but in my own way. I don't believe any particular religious belief. And the question about God in the Pledge of Allegiance, it's interesting. People don't realize this. The Pledge of Allegiance used to say, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. They added the word under God in 1954. And this was during the Cold War, after World War II, when they wanted to get Americans into this kind of cheer, hurrah, Christian anti-capitalism, or anti-communism, pro-capitalism attitude. And it worked, right? People were scared of communism, scared of nuclear war, and they went out and spent and did their Pledge of Allegiance at school to say one nation under God, and nobody questioned it after that. Then it was added to the money. And anyone who grew up today sees, in God we trust in the money. It did not say that before 1957. You see, this was kind of a resurgence from the Christian right, and they were trying to, influence a generation of Americans, and they did a good job at it. But then people kind of realized, after the Cold War, a lot of it was just fear mongering in order to get attention, and in order to get, pull more money out for military bullshit that we didn't need. But as far as the question about, are there some inherent advantages to having a country built on Christian values? Yes, only certain values, if they coincide with my values, right? Or your values. We all have to agree on what the values are. So that requires a deeper discussion, I suppose. So I definitely covered the second part about the Pledge of Allegiance and the first part. So I answered that question. Oh, Blessed asks another one. He says, what are your thoughts on the uprising of Muslim values in this country? Do you feel that the Muslim... Actually, I'm going to answer that later, because there was another question down below that's similar. I believe you probably saw that one, because there was... it was another one about political Islam. So I'm going to answer that after this next question. The one's from Ryan Lawrence. It says, is Trump going to make everything all rainbows, unicorns, and sunshine? All I can say to that is, God, I hope so, man. But probably not. I don't know. If that were to happen, then he'll probably slaughter the unicorns and the rainbows in order to make a jacket. And he'll block out the sunshine. No, he's not that bad. He's just a fucking symptom of a cause, symptom of a problem. Which leads me to the political Islam question. I want you to talk about political Islam, and this is by Space Dog 879. And somebody else said that's an awesome suggestion, which was blessed, which is why I'm assuming he was asking that too. And I said, in what way, so I know how to respond? And he says, maybe in the context of the new phenomenon that, quote, tolerant, unquote, woke has a paradoxical alliance with conservative political Islam, or the fact that in the UK there are now cities with conservative Muslims ruling politics in some areas. There are many more aspects to show when Islam, Western culture, and how this plays out. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, yes. Not blah, blah, blah insultingly, but yes. I said I'd touch on it, and I'm going to. Political Islam is... Let me just say first, I was listening to a podcast earlier with Sam Harris and Ezra Klein. I think it was those two. Sam Harris and somebody. And they were talking about this, the issue with Islam. Because Sam Harris I've known about him for, 15 years, listening to his anti-Christian rants back when I was kind of anti-religion. But now I'm not anti-religion. I'm just anti-people using religion to, put other people down and think that they're the only ones that are right. Like, I think if you find a God system that works for you, bless you, man. Work on it and do it. And I don't care what it is. If you ever come to me and tell me that if I don't believe in your God, that I'm a bad person or I'm going to hell, fuck off. I just don't care. I won't even argue it. I have no time for such trivial bullshit from people, right? So as long as you can accept that other people believe in different gods, I think that, we're all good. And it doesn't even have to be God as we define it. But when it comes to Islam, there are some extreme groups within the Islamic State, within these, different cultures. I'm no expert on it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be. I do listen to a lot about it. Believe it or not, I actually watch Al Jazeera. I'm curious about what's going on in Gaza and very bothered by it. I realize this kind of gaslighting that's been done that, well, if you dare support Palestinian civilians, then somehow you are a anti-American or something. I'm just disgusted by it. I don't even want to get into that one and that bullshit. But I respect Muslims. I don't respect Muslim extremists. The same way I respect Christians and I don't respect Christian extremists, which, yes, there have been in the past. Maybe not so much anymore today, but that's because as much as Christians pretend to be persecuted, they're not. Now, if the Christians in this country were actually beaten down and harassed physically and prevented from going about their lives by Muslims, that would be a totally different story. And people would react. And that's how Muslims feel when they're put down, And this is why religions can't get along. Extremists are made by the West my country, coming across the ocean to another country and sending our white soldiers over there into a country of brown people who don't look anything like us, don't speak our language, and saying, hey, we have superior firepower, so therefore, hey, you should just listen to what we say. Oh, don't fight back or you're a terrorist. That's where we're at. That's where we've been at. In the very, very plain terms. Now, this does not excuse the fact that a lot of people fleeing this corruption, which was caused quite often by the West, not always, not in every country, fleeing to other countries like the US and the UK, and then getting treated like shit by the country, especially after 9/11. The way we treated Muslims here, we were mean. People were harsh to brown people. Anybody wearing a turban, maybe they weren't even, they could have been a sheik or something. It doesn't matter. People were pissed. And when people are pissed off, they will blame anybody. And it's all about somebody to point the finger at. Now, it makes it look, and this is my long way of saying, it could be easy for somebody to say that the same thing's happening in the UK. Because as I answered the question, it's not happening as much in the US, and at least in my states. We don't have any, Islamic run governments here. But there are states where a lot of Muslims have kind of taken over, have the majority in a lot of these areas, these communities. And if they do take over politics and they do start to run, let's say a bunch of Muslims run and take over government, okay? I mean, Jews do it all the time. Oh God, I'll get shit for saying that, but it's fucking true, and they're not even a race. You can go over and you can say, as an American, you can be any color, any gender, any race, and just be like, hey, I'm a Jew now, and go over there and get free land. It's just, people do it. People have been doing it for years. It's just wild. Anyway, Islam is responding to all the threats of the West and Israel, and therefore kind of playing the nastier game. But many just want to escape it all. And so they go to places like the UK or the US, and many of the communities just mind their own business, live their own lives. They pray 5 times a day, do whatever they want to do. That's fine. But the ones that want to cause trouble, and the ones who want to pass any laws that, let's just say, any laws that the most of the community disagrees with, that's a tough one. Like, what if most of the community is Muslim and they vote for Muslim values over Christian values for the rest of the population? I don't know. That is a really difficult question to answer. And when people say, well, that's not American or not American values, I don't know what American values are, because people talk so much shit about where I live. Like people who live in Texas. Portland, it's just a trash city. It's just a piece of shit. Fuck, who would want to live in Portland? Just a bunch of goddamn hippies. Yeah, well, why the fuck should I care about Texas when your power goes out? Oh, you want to suck on my grid, bro? You want to... That's what they did. They fucking siphoned off electricity. We had to loan them shit because they couldn't handle it themselves as the Lone Star State, because we work together. We're a community. So that's the whole thing. We need to work together. We need to work together as a community. There is an American culture of sharing and caring and helping each other when shit gets bad. And if people have slightly different values and they want to run a country and they want or run a local government in the country, and they think they can do better, let's just hope they're not like the Rajneeshis who tried to overturn an election in my home state of Oregon by going and poisoning all of the, people involved in the election so they could throw the election to win. Now, if you're not familiar with the Rajneeshis, they were a bunch of Islam. I believe they were Islam related, or believed. I don't think they were from India. God, maybe they were. Anyway, this whole group of people who wore red out in Eastern Oregon, and they poisoned a salad bar so they could, keep some guy out of the race to try to win the, election. It was discovered. Whoa. And they all got kicked out. Got their asses booted from their little compound. But a bunch of them still are out there. It's pretty wild. Anyway, not to get too much off topic, what do I care about political Islam when it doesn't affect me and my country as much, or my community? Because if somebody says that it's affecting their community, then I have to believe them. And I'd have to see more data on actually how much damage it causes and the actual problems to really understand it. I'm not going to pretend to know better. So thank you for the question. The next question was by Stig C. Minkstuen. And I was thinking, wait, are you from Norway or something? That name. He's been a subscriber for a while. He says, hello, my friend. I don't care about politics in general, but I want to ask you a question. As an American, what do you think Trump is doing to America and to the world order? Well, I guess there's only one more question after that, and I'll answer them both at the same time. um, Somebody asked if I was deleting comments, but no, I wasn't. I never delete comments, by the way. The next question was, is the USA a plutocracy or a democracy? So, is the US a plutocracy or a democracy? But the original question was, what do you think Trump is doing to America and the world order? First of all, I don't think Trump is doing. Okay, I think in the long term, Trump is doing bad things for my country while doing good things for the rest of the world and the world order. And I want to explain why. Because as somebody said in a podcast earlier when they were talking about politics, like, let's just say Trump. He's the fucking elephant in the room, right? Nobody wants to mention the word Trump because it just, oh God, here we go, right? You're either for or against. What side are you on? Honestly, I don't care. I think the guy is a loose cannon, a douchebag, and I think that he has, not nefarious intent. I think he has personal intent. I've always been fascinated by wealthy and famous people and why they want to be wealthy and famous long after they don't need to be. In other words, I can see wanting to gain a bunch of wealth, but why want to then lose it and just gain it and lose it and gain it and perpetuate it? Why not just opt out and just go do your own thing? It's because people like the attention. In fact, it seems that people will do anything to be relevant and be in the news. And Trump is one of these people. He's the gold toilet man who wants everybody to look at him. He starts the Apprentice show so he can, run his companies and also do this fucking reality show. And it's the same way that Musk is a showman, pretending he can run like 8 companies while raising 15 kids and having 5 wives and still running a government program. Look, anybody who believes a human being is capable of doing all these things well, you're lying to yourself. So, to get back to the point, Trump. What is he doing to the world order? Not much, because the rest of the world is moving on. They're growing up. A lot of these countries are taking advantage of the new discoveries in battery technology, new discoveries in nuclear technology, new discovery in space age materials that can actually revolutionize entire cities. Say, wow, we can build our structures this way. They can withstand earthquakes, floods. Why not do this? This would be great for the people. We have the resources. We can, sell the resources from our land and then buy these things we need and make the community great for us and the future. Because people used to look forward 7 generations. I mentioned this before, but I need to bring it up briefly. In certain Native American cultures, they had the seven generations was kind of a thing that they wanted to look forward to say, how is this going to help people 7 generations from now? So like 200 years. Everything that was decided needed to benefit the future 7 generations out. And today, it's more like, how much can I get in 7 months before I cash out and totally fuck over not just my fellow man, but my own kids and their friends and everybody who's growing up and trying to buy a home, buy a car. As somebody pointed out earlier, the automobile industry is garbage. You go out, people want to say, well, Teslas, look at what Elon's made. You buy a Tesla, it's got no dashboard, right? Well, some of them do, right? But basically, it's all run from a touch screen. People don't know this, but the Cybertruck has no actual dash, no instrument panel. It's just run by a touch screen. If one thing goes out and you can't use the touch screen, you're fucked. Can't use the car. That's the least of the problems, but this isn't anything to do with really Elon, but modern cars in general. Ford, GM, they're all guilty. They make cars that you can't work on anymore. Somebody mentioned the other day they had a Toyota pickup and they needed a new transmission. How much do you think it would cost? Well, I have a school bus in my driveway. It's a 93 GMC, P35 frame, bread truck style, short bus. I've been quoted, say, $1,500 for a used transmission, rebuilt, $1,500, $2,000 for an install. You're looking at like $3,500 to put in a new transmission in my bus. You know how much this guy got quoted on his pickup? No, not $10,000, not 15, not 20. $27,000 for a transmission. That's more than I would ever pay for even a full fucking pickup, right? But then again, you look at the dealerships and they're selling for $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. I want to say that the people are morons, but bless it, I have family and friends that have bought giant pickups for over $100,000 that I'm still shocked. I know somebody, and he passed away, but he had bought a pickup that was over $100,000, and I just said, why? Not a farmer, you're not a trucker. I just couldn't understand it. I drive a Dodge Caliber. It's a little hatchback car that looks like a bug or something. It's a horrible car. When my wife met me, I drove a Ford Escort. She said she almost didn't date me because I drove it. I thought that was funny. But then she said she was serious. Anyway, what do I think he's doing to America? I think he's cheapening us. I think Trump is making America look cheap, weak, and cowardly. Because, I'm sorry, the Wild West attitude isn't gold toilets and, making fun of people. The Wild West attitude is taking care of the weak, but also standing up to the strong, standing up to those who take, advantage. You've all seen it through history, everything we've read, everything we've learned about good and bad. The good guy, the bad guy, the bank robber, the corporate criminal, and now we just let him be president. All of a sudden, people have just given up. I feel like people have resigned their brains to just say, we have been trained since childhood through everything we've read. And I'm not just talking about modern movies. I'm saying books, technology. It's all brought us to the realization that the average person creates the real good shit in this world. The art, the music, everything industrious and business oriented just gets corrupted and fucked up. But we elect it. So that's my answer on Trump. I think he brought in a tech bro like Elon. And now Elon can't understand why he's hated and why nobody wants to be his friend. I mean, there are toxic people, and the scary thing is they resign themselves to it. They just say, well, I'm hated, so I'm going to own being hated. My solution? Make America care again. Give a shit about each other. Not think that there's an us and them. Pink Floyd warned us of us and them, and people still buy into that shit. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's the answer. The second part of my Q&A, and it's already been a long time. See? 30 minutes. Fucking hour long. Y'all asked questions, I answered them long term. So I'll see you next time. Peace and love. Be well. Check out my podcast. Check out my YouTube channel. I have a Patreon at Carpo 719. And I'll see you later. Peace.